in part 10 of lesson 69, and we're building up from the basics. So if you've never subscribed to all the other lessons I've given you, the last 10 pieces have taken you right through from the beginning. So it's been a good refresher for you, I hope. And the title of this 10th piece is that the downswing is a choice and therefore it's an art. So as I said earlier, I think I'd be quite dogmatic about what a good setup looks like. Most teaching pros would agree that that is a good setup, face on and down the line. We could see poor posture or misalignment. So if you're a student of the game, you're basically watching golf on television, you know good posture when you see it. And pretty much, we've got the exceptions like Jim Furyk and Bubba, but broadly, if you look at a Louis Oosthuizen swing, you're looking at orthodoxy and great grace and economy of movement. Okay, so I would say that the backswing has an optimum plane, and this would be below it and this would be above it. And that's like the wobble on a bicycle. You know, it's not perfect art, it's a controlled imperfection. So, to clarify, I'm declaring there is an ideal pre-shot routine setup, and I also believe there's an ideal biomechanical backswing. Don't have to use it, but it's a nice reference point. So when it comes to the downswing, there's choices, and therefore there is an art. Okay, so my pre-shot routine is thus, and I create power in my backswing. Now I'm going to hit the shot. Now, when I'm at the top of the backswing, I'm going to start my downswing. The downswing is to deliver the blow and to utilize the power made in the backswing. Now, I personally believe that there's a number of choices. The one that confuses the most, I believe, is how do the legs work? So if you said to me, Luther, what do you do? What's the first move at the top of the downswing? The top of the backswing, then the downswing. What's the first inch? I would say hand action, arms and club. So if I had an axe, I would load. I don't believe I'd throw my hips and legs and torso at the tree. I would load the torso and I would deliver the blow. So for me personally, I'm not saying you have to do this, but this is how I see it and it works for me. And I'll give you some more choices later on, so you can pick a mix according to your need. So for myself, I prepare, I coil, and then I release the power through the club. My hands, arms and club, I release. And even with the pause, I'm getting my normal distance for a 6-iron. Now, when I pause, everything stops, and when I release, I believe everything goes as one. But I know from still photographs of the great players down the ages, while the club is at the top bowed, the hips and the legs are obviously started the downward journey. Very noticeable in Sam Snead, for instance. Now, why is that? Well, this is my take on it. If I said to you, pass the coffee, you step across the kitchen and you'd pass the coffee pot, and you wouldn't think about your legs. If I sort of shrieked out, you catch that falling vase, your hand and your leg we're made like that. That the leg cooperates with the hand. Okay? So when I load the backswing and stop, and then you say to me release, to my mind, everything comes down in unison. But I know in the golf swing, the legs win the race. So if I said to you, spin a pebble across a pond, I believe your left leg would lead and you'd spin the pebble with your hand. I'll do it this way, okay? Now, if Simon showed me the video of that in slow motion, I could copy it. Oh, Luther led with his hip and his foot, and then he spun the pebble. No, he didn't. He spun the pebble. So there's a reaction, okay? And I call it a reflex anticipation. So as I'm coming in, the ball comes into me in tennis. As the ball comes in, my left leg's going forward as my racket goes back. Do you honestly think I'm thinking about the foot? No, I'm not. I'm thinking about delivering a blow. So there is a reflex anticipation. The body computes. It sees the incoming ball, the left hip and leg lead in, and guess what? You've got variety. So I would say the same is true of the golf swing. So if I hit a normal shot, and then you saw it in slow motion, I think you'd see the hips starting the downswing. I think you would see the Hogan-esque clearance of the hips. But I personally don't believe it's something you have to worry about. If you've coiled fully, If your left shoulder turn is complete and you deliver the blow with total freedom, I believe that your hips, legs, feet and weight shift will win the race. But I believe it's a reflex activity, not a conscious one. However, if you've got a strong grip and you're prone to hooking the ball, an early hip clearance as a swing thought is no bad thing. Most of the people I teach lose it right anyway, and clearing the hips just adds fuel to the flame. Okay, so hopefully we've got it. When you putt, how do your legs behave? Pretty static. When you chip, a little bit of life. When you hit a wedge, some life. When you hit a driver, the most life, okay? So as you're engaged in the task of preparation, rotation, and then release, I believe that the hips and legs are working. Now, even within my little theology, there is a variety. So let me set up normally. I'm going to coil and stop at the top. Now, I'm going to hit you a fade, okay? And the ball's curved from left to right. If you videoed my leg action, you would have seen a slower hip action and a slower clearance compared to a draw. So I'm going to set up for draw. I'm going to coil and hit you a draw. Okay, so when I coil and hit fade, my hips and legs move this way. Possibly my chest rotated a bit earlier. When I hit the draw for you, my hips and legs are the quickest. They moved in a linear fashion and they went in a different way. So you're preparing and you're loading, you're hitting the shot. I feel that if you do that well, the hips, legs and weight shift will happen as a reflex anticipation. You don't need to teach them. If there's an instinctive inherent movement, don't mess with it. When you spin a pebble, the hip leads. You don't think about it. When you hit a golf shot, the hips and legs lead. You don't have to think about it. But you do have to accept there'll be variety according to the choice of shot that you've made.